Welcome, everybody. How you doing? Doug Barry here. I appreciate you joining me on this video. Going to get right into this. What these exorcists have said, pretty much all the same thing. In the last several months, I've been very fortunate to do some interviews through U.S. Grace Force, the podcast that I'm part of with Father Richard Heilman. We have interviewed 4 key exorcists. You're familiar with many of them, I'm sure. Monsignor Rossetti. We've also interviewed Monsignor Pope. We've also interviewed Father Chad Ripperger. And we have interviewed Father Dan Rehill. Now, the essence of these interviews, there's a lot to them. I'm not going to get into all the details here. There were different points that we tried to bring out, but there was one key thing that I was noticing that all of them have said. Now, in light of what we're seeing in our world right now with regards to what I'm going to refer to, and you've heard it referred to as the Trump effect, positive things, good things, and I'm very happy about that. There have been a lot of really, really good things that have come out. But we have to remember that just because we see some hope here and there, especially when it comes to natural secular things in the world, that's all great and well, and we need that. We do. We need a better economy. We need better jobs. We need all these good things. We do. We need a more secure border. We need these things. Absolutely. I'm excited about that. But the warnings of the Blessed Mother have been clear. We have had these apparitions from the Blessed Mother, and I'm talking mainly about the approved ones, but even the ones that are still under investigation, such as Garabandal or Medjugorje, a lot of great fruit has come from those. These messages from heaven have not changed. In other words, they're still saying essentially the same thing. Before I get into what the exorcist said, I want to encourage you to go out and sign up. Go to, as you see on the screen here, brcoalition.com/sign up, and sign up for a free webinar that we've got next week. At the time I record this is June 4th. This is going to be next week. We're recording this right now. Yes, it is on the 4th. This is going to be next week, next Wednesday and Thursday. Wednesday at 7 p.m. and Thursday at 1 p.m., both Central Time. And what this is going to do is going to address the Marian warnings and the messages. Now, some of you I know are very familiar with them, but I'm going to approach this in a different way than I have before, I think, because we cannot let our guard down. There's so many things that are happening in our world that are showing that we cannot let our guard down. So please, Mary's warnings, the messages that have been coming from heaven for many, many years now, and these need to be addressed. They need to be looked at again and again and again. We cannot lose sight of what heaven has been saying to us. And we need to remember that heaven has never said, I'll give you one quick point here. Heaven has never said that if you elect the right people, you won't have to worry about these warnings. Is there an element in there of the importance of the election affecting the? Of course. But what does it look like and what does it mean for each of us? So please go out to brcoalition.com/sign up, link in the description, and share this with others. Let's get as many people as possible on board with learning more about the apparitions, the messages of our Blessed Mother, the warnings, the seriousness of our times, and why it's so important that we look at what it means for us individually right now in our lives. Now, with that being said, let's look at what these exorcists have been saying. In general, what I've heard from all 4 of them, whether they said it directly or whether they said it implicitly. And really, they were all pretty direct. Now, I'm going to pull a clip up in just a little bit here of one of these exorcists who speaks very directly about the times that we're in. They've all said essentially the same thing. We are becoming too comfortable. We're getting a little too relaxed. We're not taking seriously the gravity of what's still going on around us. We're not understanding that just because we're seeing, again, I call it the Trump effect. They didn't say that necessarily, but we're seeing the positive movement of this, that, and the other thing in society. A lot of people are kind of sitting back on their laurels and they're just kind of relaxed, thinking, things are going to be okay. I don't have to worry so much about things. Also, I think we get what you could say war weary. We get prophecy weary. We get concerned oftentimes that, we're hearing this boy cry wolf type of thing. I refer to it sometimes as prophecy cry wolf, where we hear about the messages over and over and over again, and then we don't see them unfold to the gravity that maybe we thought they should unfold. And so we get a little discouraged thinking, well, I guess it's really not, or maybe it's not in my time, and what have you. But the problem with that can be we start then to take out of our way of thinking our importance in this moment that we live. There's a very serious reason why you're here right now, why you're alive. For all of us, God has us here at this time because he is asking something of us. We'll get into that in a future video coming up later this week. I'm going to talk more about what God might be asking of us and what we can do. But what these exorcists are saying is we're getting too comfortable. We're getting too relaxed. We don't have that zeal that we used to have. I'm going to pull up this clip in just a second here from Monsignor Charles Pope in a recent podcast that we did with him for U.S. Grace Force. And he's very clear in recognizing really that we have lost a sense of zeal and urgency in the times that we're in. All right, let's check out that clip from Monsignor Charles Pope right now.
I think one of the biggest problems we have in the church today is there's really no urgency for anything.
Right.
Everything is just like, business as usual, kind of beige Catholicism. Let's just, do what we did last year. And it doesn't seem that there's any urgency to really say, we got to get out there and work to save souls.
Right.
And you were talking about Our Lady, she says how many souls went to hell because nobody prayed for them. I mean, again, these are the things that we have to be more serious about. And I don't think most people are very serious. They kind of discount hell. They don't think it's really that likely that God really would send many people. Now, of course, Father, we always need Hitler around, to put him down there. I mean, someone like Hitler. But, my son who drinks too much and lives with his girlfriend. Well, no, he's not. No, God is a nice guy. He's not going to. And so I think that we have this. It leads to a lack of urgency. Who needs to really go to church? Who needs to pray? Who needs sacraments? Who needs to read scripture or listen to a Grace Force or any of these things that God gives us? Because it's in the bag. Pretty much all of us are going to just go to heaven anyway. So why try? Why bother?
And that's really what it amounts to, is a lot of these messages from heaven, people have just kind of set to the side. And we don't have that sense of urgency. I've been doing this work for 35 years, traveled the country and outside the country. I've been on, all different forms of media platforms, from podcasts to radio shows, you name it, EWTN. And I have felt that as well. The struggle with trying to stay in the fight, to try to get that next rosary prayed, to try to get a little more fasting. This is the t-shirt that someone sent me from Wisconsin, up where Our Lady of Champion is, Our Lady of Hope up in Champion, Wisconsin, forgive me, up near Green Bay. And it's a reminder again, she appeared even in America, and she appeared on our soil, and she had a message of the importance in that particular apparition, which is approved. She has a message of importance of teaching the faith, really teaching the truth of the faith. Well, the truth is pretty much whatever we want. We've seen this even on the level of government. As we talk, there are still states out there that are ignoring the executive order about the transgender issue that President Trump signed. They're still allowing biological men to compete in women's sports and so forth and so forth. This is still a problem. For some reason, people have thought, this may have just kind of gone away, or it's going to get better because, look, Trump signed an executive order. Look, I'm thrilled about that. That doesn't fix the problem overall. Because remember, it always boils down to the hearts of each and every one of us and the souls. Remember what Our Lady said in Akita, Japan. And we'll break a lot more of this down in tremendous detail in the webinar next week on the Blessed Mother's warnings and messages to the world. But what she said in Akita, Japan, the cause of my great sadness is the loss of so many souls. So this is still a very urgent situation. And we do need to recognize, not an anxiety. And I always like to make that clear with any of the work that I do personally or with BR Coalition. We always try to make it clear. It's not about anxiety. It's not about wringing our hands in fear. What it's about is a sense of, as Monsignor Pope mentioned, urgency. For some reason, heaven is regularly sending us these messages. One of the things we'll be addressing in the webinar next week on the Blessed Mother's warnings and messages is the fact that we have seen an increase in these messages from heaven, be they larger situations such as a Fatima or Akita or Our Lady of All Nations in Amsterdam, these types of large moments, or private revelations and messages, or how many people have seen the miracle of the sun. I've mentioned this in past videos that I've been blessed to see the miracle of the sun several times. But what does this mean for us? What is it doing for us? Are we still on fire, full of urgency? Please go out to brcoalition.com/sign up and click on that link and get your seat reserved for this webinar next week. Share this with other people. Look, what we need to do is grow the ranks. That's one of the things that these four exorcists have said that I just mentioned their names a while back. Father Ripperger, Monsignor Charles Pope, and Father Monsignor Rossetti, Monsignor Rossetti, and Father Dan Rehill. They've all said the same thing. More people need to get on board with prayer, fasting, sacraments, Now, I know some might be thinking, but I do all that, Doug. So do I. But what more can I be doing? Can I add one more rosary? Can I add one more moment of adoration? Can I add this or that? Even if it's one little thing. If anybody knows me, I'm big on the incremental steps that we can take in order to improve our lives. Whether it's working out, just go for a walk if you're not doing anything at all. From the walk, you might go to a light jog. You might start lifting weights. You might use stretch bands. You might use, some other form of exercise, but activity. But start incrementally with one thing. Walk for 5 minutes and then step it up to 10 minutes. No pun intended. Step up your walking. All right. Get the point, though? If you need to clean things out, start with one drawer, one closet, one cabinet, and eventually work through the entire house, and so forth and so forth. Spiritually speaking, same thing. These exorcists are telling us we've got to get more involved. This is still a very urgent time. Check out some of these headlines that we've got going on right now. Just pop up on the screen there, and we'll start talking about each of them. Check this out. Agro-terrorism plot. If anybody didn't hear about this, as I am live right now, this is on the news this morning. You can see the video clips that are out there. You can watch it live. 2 Chinese nationalists were caught bringing what potentially could be a form of agro-terrorism, agriculture terrorism. This can seriously disrupt our food system in America. They were caught. They are now going through the whole prosecution process. Pam Bondi says we are going to protect the country. Well, what does this sound like? The possibility of disrupting our food supply. That's a pretty serious issue. Okay, smuggling a potential bioweapon into the country. This is not to be taken lightly. Even though President Trump is in office, this is the point. These things can still happen. Right? There are still very bad actors, people out there who are engaged in one form of evil or another that still want to do a lot of harm. All right, check out this next one here. We've got a 9/11 style terror attack that Tom Homan, all right, he's the border czar. This is the man who's been all over protecting our country and securing the border. He believes that this is still a very viable possibility in America. Now, I can go back to several meetings that I've had with ex-intelligence officers who say that they all expect, and they have been expecting, and even those that are still in the field expect, that we are going to get hit with something like this on some level, in some way, even something comparable to the Hamas attack on October 7th in Israel a couple of years ago. What this could mean for the United States if it's a well-organized attack could be really, really challenging, devastating, in fact, for our nation. We must not get caught sleeping on these things. All right, and check this one out. Another headline that points out, again, some of the concerns that we have. This is one of those more natural things, urgent health warning. Don't you love the way they wrote this up? This is the most serious disease is out there in the world. It's measles, okay? All right, they're talking about measles and an outbreak of measles being a bigger problem. Now, this again could be some clickbait, so to speak, for the news article from Daily Mail. But the point is, these things are still happening in our world. We still need to keep our guard up. And then one more headline I want to share with you on this to make this point very clear is even this one here. Hundreds of thousands told to stay inside in 4 states. I've also seen articles that it's more than just 4 states. And this has to do with, in large part, wildfires burning in Canada that are blowing down. The smoke is blowing down into America. So again, these are reminders. These headlines remind us that our world is still fragile. Our world is still challenging. We still run into, whether it's human bioterrorism threats to a 9/11 style possible attack, to even wildfires that can lead to pretty serious disruption in the way we live our lives. This can all happen. God can allow a lot to unfold in our times. When these 4 exorcists are saying essentially the same thing, the spiritual ramifications, what's happening in our world right now, because so many, this is also something that they all agree on, so many have drifted from God. Look at those who attend Mass faithfully in America. Before COVID, the mass attendance numbers were in the area of 20 to 23%, depending on different studies. Okay, during the pandemic, it dropped obviously tremendously, and some say that it only came back up to 10, maybe 15%, even right now. How are we thinking that God is very pleased when we won't even go to Mass on Sunday? Not to mention other denominations that also are dropping in their church attendance. In Europe, they say before the pandemic that the Mass attendance was around 5% in all of Europe. You're talking about Catholic France, eldest daughter of the church. You're talking about Spain, Catholic countries, and the Mass attendance was around 5%. So why would heaven be sending these messages? Why would our Blessed Mother, who only speaks in complete union with her Son's will, why would these messages be so challenging for us for our time? Well, just these simple headlines that we showed, and many, many other things we could discuss, from human trafficking to, of course, abortion, and all the other attacks that we have on the human dignity that God has blessed each and every one of us with. The transgender confusion, the pronoun battle that we're in, all of these different things that are still out there, they're still going on. We cannot become too comfortable. Again, don't forget to go out and sign up, beourcoalition.com/sign up. Link is in the description. Get your seat reserved for these webinars. We have 2 scheduled right now. We may add a third if we need to, if the numbers are large enough. And we want to be able to do that, because what that says is that many people are interested in wanting to know more about, or if you know about all these apparitions, and I'll be addressing a lot of them, maybe there are others. I'm going to be addressing, as you see there, Fatima, Akita, Medjugorje, but there are many others out there. We're going to draw some links and some connections to make the point clear that this is nothing that we should be taking lightly. The Blessed Mother is not wanting us to sit back and just think that everything is fine because we have someone better in the White House, or we have someone potentially better in the Vatican. And I'm still reserving a lot of my assessment to see how time unfolds with what's happening in the Vatican. I want to give him a chance in my own heart and mind, and I pray for him every single day for God to bless Pope Leo XIV with true holy guidance. And we'll just have to continue to watch to see. There have been some good things, but there have been some concerning things as well. With that being said, though, go to beourcoalition.com/sign up. Get yourself signed up for that webinar, and let's get together next week and let's really break this down in detail. But don't forget what these 4 exorcists have said. We are in a critical time right now. Okay. And I know some have said it's always a critical time. Doug, you can't just put an emphasis and make it sound. No, it's critical. It's different now. Why is it different? Because we didn't have the technology 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years ago that we have now. If you're familiar at all with AI, that's a whole nother video I want to get into in the near future. The whole AI concern, and this is something that the exorcists themselves have talked about, Father Dan Rehel in particular. There have already been cases of AI involvement in the diabolical. All right. And I think Father Rehel put it, and we'll pull the clip up and put it in a future video in the very near future, where Father Dan Rehel is very clear when he says, oh, imagine you've got the demon saying, oh, this is perfect. Now you've set it up where now you're going to be asking for questions and advice from me. And we've seen these problems unfold already. So with that in mind, we have to remember that, yes, we've always had sin in the world, but we've never had the ability to take it and explode it to the degree that we do now. Where 6, 7, 8-year-old kids have smartphones and can see some of the most horrible or destructive to their faith, even maybe not just sinful images, but even philosophies and ideas that come into our young people's minds that can destroy their faith, their belief in God, belief in the supernatural truth of Almighty God. So we have a lot of reason to get on board in this fight like we never have before, mainly because heaven is warning us. Our Lady is asking us to. So let's do it. Let's do it for her, so we can stand before God with a clear conscience and say, Lord, I fought this good fight. You sent your mother to the world to remind us of how important it was, and I responded. Even if our successes and victories aren't what we think they should be or could be, God's looking for the heart to be faithful and true and to never give up, to persevere. Matthew 24:13. All right, that's it for now. Don't forget, beourcoalition.com/sign up. Webinar next week. Wednesday and Thursday. And, I don't want to miss this. What's that? The 9th, 10th, 11th, forgive me, 12th, 13th, I think. Is that 12, 13? Forgive me for not having that part down. Oh, thank you. Thank you for putting that back up on the screen there. No, it's 11th and 12th of next week. 11th and 12th of next week. Let's do it. Wednesday and Thursday next week. Let's get on this. Go out, sign up. I look forward to seeing you all again very soon. Later this week, we'll have another video coming out. We're going to break down a little bit more about what's going on and what we can do, because there's a lot we can do. All right. God bless and strengthen you all. Go sign up. I look forward to seeing you all real soon.